First contact and betrayal. The skies above New Eden Colony blazed with unfamiliar lights. Governor Elora Chen stood transfixed at the viewport of the command center, her dark eyes wide with a mix of wonder and apprehension. After decades of searching the cosmos, humanity had finally made first contact. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady despite the nervous energy coursing through her. Chief Science Officer Raj Patel's fingers danced across his console. 7 vessels of unknown configuration holding position just beyond our orbital defense grid. No hostile actions detected so far. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Governor. Chen nodded, squaring her shoulders. "Open a channel." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a bipedal alien with iridescent scales and multifaceted eyes. Its mouth didn't move, but a synthesized voice echoed through the command center. "Greetings, inhabitants of New Eden. We are the Zarketh Collective. We come in peace, seeking friendship and cultural exchange." Over the next few days, the colony buzzed with excitement. The Zarketh shared glimpses of advanced technology that promised to revolutionize human society. They spoke of a galactic community, offering humanity a place among the stars. Governor Chen, however, couldn't shake a nagging sense of unease. The aliens were cordial, but guarded. They deflected questions about their homeworld and the specifics of their technology. Something felt off. Her suspicions were confirmed on the 5th day. Alarms blared throughout the colony as the Zarketh ships suddenly powered up their weapons. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, targeting key infrastructure and defense installations. In the chaos of the command center, Chen barked orders. "Get me Earth. We need reinforcements." Patel's face was ashen. Long-range communications are down. They must have sabotaged our systems during the cultural exchange. Chen swore under her breath. They'd been played for fools. As the colony's meager defenses crumbled under the onslaught, Chen made a desperate decision. Initiate Protocol Omega. We need to get a warning to Earth, no matter the cost. Patel nodded grimly, understanding the implication. Protocol Omega, a last-ditch effort to send a message via experimental quantum entanglement technology. It would drain the colony's remaining power, leaving them defenseless. As Chen recorded her warning, explosions rocked the command center. The Zarketh ground forces had breached the perimeter. "Message away," Patel shouted over the din of battle, "but I can't confirm if." His words were cut short as a plasma bolt tore through the room. Chen watched in horror as her friend and colleague crumpled to the floor. With a heavy heart, she grabbed her sidearm and prepared to make her last stand. The colonists of New Eden would not go quietly into the night. As alien troops stormed the command center, Chen's thoughts turned to Earth. She prayed her warning would reach them in time. Humanity's future now hung by the slenderest of threads. The last thing Governor Elora Chen saw was the cruel, faceted eyes of a Zarketh warrior as it raised its weapon. A blinding flash, then darkness. New Eden had fallen, but unbeknownst to the invaders, a quantum pulse raced across the vastness of space, carrying with it humanity's desperate plea for help. The lone survivor. The smoldering ruins of New Eden stretched as far as the eye could see. Where once stood gleaming towers and lush biodomes, now only twisted metal and ash remained. The Zarketh invasion had been swift and merciless, leaving little in its wake. Amidst the desolation, a lone figure stirred. Lieutenant Marcus Cruz groaned as consciousness returned, the acrid taste of smoke filling his lungs. He blinked, trying to focus through the haze of pain and confusion. The last thing he remembered was the frantic evacuation of the military barracks as alien ships rained fire from the sky. Cruz pushed himself to his feet, wincing at the sharp pain in his side. A quick self-assessment revealed a few cracked ribs and numerous cuts and bruises, but nothing life-threatening. He was alive, which made him possibly the luckiest man on the planet. Or the unluckiest, depending on how you looked at it. As the fog in his mind cleared, Cruz's military training kicked in. First priority, assess the situation, and find any other survivors. He keyed his wrist communicator, but only static greeted him. The colony's communications network was down. Cruz began to move through the ruins, his eyes constantly scanning for threats. The eerie silence was broken only by the occasional crackle of fires and the crunch of debris beneath his boots. Hours passed with no sign of life, human or alien. As the planet's twin suns began to set, Cruz found himself at the outskirts of what used to be the colony's main plaza. His heart sank as he surveyed the destruction. Bodies lay strewn about, some partially buried under rubble. He forced himself to check each one, hoping against hope to find someone, anyone, still alive. His search proved fruitless until he reached the remains of the central administrative building. A faint sound caught his attention, a rhythmic tapping coming from beneath a fallen section of wall. Cruz's pulse quickened as he began to dig, ignoring the protest of his injured ribs. "Hello," he called out. "Can anyone hear me?" The tapping grew more insistent. After what felt like an eternity, Cruz managed to shift enough debris to reveal a small cavity. Inside, he found a young woman, battered and bloody but alive. "Thank God," Cruz breathed as he helped her out. "I'm Lieutenant Marcus Cruz. What's your name?" The woman coughed, her voice hoarse. "Dr. Aria Foster. I was part of the xenobiology team." As Cruz tended to her injuries, Aria filled him in on what she knew. The Zarketh had systematically wiped out the colony's leadership and military forces before rounding up the remaining population. Those who resisted were killed on the spot. The rest were herded onto transport ships and taken off-world. "But why?" Cruz asked, his brow furrowed. "What do they want with us?" Aria's eyes darkened. "From what I overheard, we're to be used as slave labor. The Zarketh, they're not explorers or diplomats. They're conquerors, strip mining inhabited worlds for resources and using the native populations as disposable workers." The revelation hit Cruz like a physical blow. All those people, men, women, children, now faced a fate worse than death, and Earth had no idea what was coming. As night fell, Cruz and Aria took shelter in the ruins of a research facility on the colony's outskirts. They scavenged what supplies they could find: medical kits, ration packs, and most crucially, a portable long-range communicator that had somehow survived the invasion. While Aria slept fitfully, Cruz worked through the night to repair the device. It was their only hope of contacting Earth and warning them of the impending threat. As dawn broke, Cruz finally managed to coax a signal from the battered communicator. He input the emergency frequencies for Earth's Defense Command, praying someone would be listening. "This is Lieutenant Marcus Cruz of New Eden Colony," he began, his voice tight with urgency. "Code Red. I repeat, Code Red. We are under attack by a hostile alien force known as the Zarketh. The colony has fallen. Unknown number of casualties and abductees. Earth is in imminent danger. Request immediate." The message cut off abruptly as a shadow fell across the entrance to their hideout. Cruz's blood ran cold as he looked up to see the towering form of a Zarketh warrior, its weapon trained directly at him. In that moment, Cruz knew their fate, and possibly the fate of all humanity, hung in the balance. The next few seconds would determine whether his warning reached Earth, or if the Zarketh would snuff out humanity's last hope. With a desperate lunge, Cruz threw himself at the alien, hoping to buy even a few more precious seconds for the transmission to complete. As they grappled, Aria scrambled for Cruz's fallen sidearm. The fate of two worlds now rested in their hands. Earth's response. Admiral Helena Yoshida stood rigidly before the holographic display, her weathered face illuminated by the swirling galaxies and star systems projected around her. The war room of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters buzzed with tense activity as analysts and officers scrambled to make sense of the fragmented transmission from New Eden. "Play it again," Yoshida ordered, her voice cutting through the din. The distorted voice of Lieutenant Cruz filled the room once more, his urgency palpable even through the static. As the message cut off abruptly, a heavy silence fell over the assembled staff. Yoshida's mind raced. New Eden was one of Earth's most distant colonies, established as a stepping stone for humanity's expansion into the cosmos. If it had fallen to an unknown alien threat. "Status of our long-range sensors," she barked. A young officer responded, "Nothing unusual detected in the vicinity of New Eden, Admiral. But given the distance, any data we're receiving is already days old." Yoshida nodded grimly. They were blind and potentially facing an enemy of unknown capabilities. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the room, "as of this moment, we are at war. I'm initiating Protocol Carthage. All colonies are to be put on high alert. Civilian space traffic is grounded until further notice." As her orders were relayed, Yoshida turned to her second-in-command, Captain Alexei Volkov. "Alexei, I want our best ships prepped and ready to move within the hour. We're mounting a rescue mission to New Eden." Volkov's eyes widened. "With all due respect, Admiral, we have no idea what we're up against. Sending our fleet into unknown territory could leave Earth vulnerable. And if we do nothing, we risk losing more colonies and countless lives," Yoshida countered. "Besides, Lieutenant Croz's warning gives us one advantage, the element of surprise. These Zarketh don't know we're coming." As the UEF sprang into action, news of the alien threat spread across Earth like wildfire. Panic gripped some regions, while others rallied with a surge of unity and determination not seen since the darkest days of the last World War. In orbit, Earth's most advanced warships assembled. The fleet was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Vessels equipped with experimental faster-than-light drives, energy shields reverse-engineered from recovered alien artifacts, and weapons that could reduce small moons to rubble. At the heart of the Armada was the UES Defiant, Earth's newest and most formidable battleship. As Admiral Yoshida strode onto its bridge, the crew snapped to attention. "At ease," she said, taking her place in the command chair. "You all know our mission. We're venturing into unknown territory to face an enemy that has already demonstrated its brutality. But make no mistake, we go not just to rescue our people, but to show these Zarketh the true strength of humanity." A chorus of "Yes, Admiral," echoed through the bridge. As final preparations were made, Yoshida's thoughts turned to the brave souls on New Eden. Lieutenant Cruz, Dr. Foster, and who knew how many others, fighting for survival against impossible odds. She silently vowed not to let their sacrifices be in vain. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Captain Volkov announced. Yoshida took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "Very well. Signal the fleet. Initiate jump sequence." Space itself seemed to warp and bend as the massive engines of Earth's Armada roared to life. In a blinding flash of light, the fleet vanished, hurtling across the vast expanse of space towards New Eden. As the Defiant led the charge through the swirling vortex of FTL travel, Yoshida allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had always looked to the stars with hope and wonder. Now they ventured forth not as explorers, but as warriors, defenders of their own existence. The journey to New Eden would take days, even with their advanced propulsion. Yoshida used the time to strategize, poring over what little information they had about the Zarketh and their capabilities. On the fourth day of their voyage, as they approached the outer reaches of the New Eden system, alarms blared across the fleet. "Multiple contacts detected," the sensor officer shouted. "Configurations match Lieutenant Cruz's description of Zarketh vessels." Yoshida's eyes narrowed. "Battle stations. All ships, prepare to emerge from FTL. Weapons hot, shields at maximum." The swirling lights of faster-than-light travel gave way to the stark blackness of normal space. Before them loomed a terrifying sight, a massive Zarketh armada, far larger than they had anticipated. For a moment, both fleets hung motionless in space, as if sizing each other up. Then, with a silent fury, the void erupted into chaos as the two forces clashed. Energy beams lanced across the darkness, missiles streaked between ships, and fighters swarmed like angry insects. The battle for New Eden, and perhaps the fate of humanity, had begun. As the Defiant shuddered under enemy fire, Admiral Yoshida stood resolute. "Push forward," she commanded. "We didn't come all this way to falter now. For Earth, for New Eden, for all of humanity, attack." The human fleet surged forward, determination etched on every face. They were outnumbered and in unfamiliar territory, but they fought with the desperate courage of those defending not just their lives, but their very existence as a species. As the stars themselves seemed to shake with the fury of the battle, one question burned in every human mind. Would their valor be enough to stem the tide of the Zarkef onslaught? Battle for survival. The void of space erupted in a dazzling display of destruction as Earth's fleet engaged the Zarkef armada. Admiral Yoshida's jaw clenched as she watched the tactical display, her mind racing to process the unfolding chaos. "Status report," she barked, her eyes never leaving the holographic battle map. Captain Volkov's voice was tense but controlled. "We've lost the intrepid and the valiant Admiral. The Zarkef's energy weapons are more powerful than we anticipated. Our shields are holding, but barely." Yoshida nodded grimly. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but retreat was not an option. Somewhere on the planet below, their people needed them. "New targeting solutions," she ordered. "Concentrate fire on their lead ships. Let's see if we can disrupt their command structure." As the battle raged in orbit, down on the surface of New Eden, Lieutenant Cruz and Dr. Foster fought their own desperate struggle for survival. The Zarkef warrior loomed over them, its multifaceted eyes gleaming with alien malevolence. Cruz's muscles screamed in protest as he grappled with the creature, its strength far surpassing human limits. "Aria, the communicator," he gasped, using every ounce of his strength to keep the alien's weapon at bay. Dr. Foster scrambled towards the device, her fingers flying over its controls. "It's still transmitting," she shouted, "but I don't know if..." Her words were cut short as a stray energy blast from the Zarkef's weapon scorched the air inches from her head. The communicator sparked and sputtered, damaged but not destroyed. Cruz, seeing an opening, drove his knee into what he hoped was a vulnerable spot on the alien's anatomy. The Zarkef stumbled, its grip loosening just enough for Cruz to wrench the weapon free. Without hesitation, he fired. The alien fell, its iridescent scales smoking from the point-blank shot. Panting heavily, Cruz turned to Aria. "Are you all right?" She nodded, her face pale but determined. "The communicator's damaged, but it might still be working. We need to find somewhere safe to assess our situation." As they gathered their meager supplies and the alien weapon, a distant rumble caught their attention. Looking up, they saw flashes of light in the sky, the telltale signs of a space battle. "Earth," Cruz breathed, hope rising in his chest. "They got our message. They came." Back in orbit, the tide of battle was slowly turning. Admiral Yoshida's strategy of targeting the Zarkef command ships was paying off. Several of the alien vessels now drifted powerless, their coordination disrupted. "Admiral," one of the bridge officers called out, "we're detecting a signal from the planet's surface. It's weak, but it matches Lieutenant Cruz's comm signature." A flicker of triumph crossed Yoshida's face. "Can we get a fix on their location?" "Affirmative, but it's in the heart of Zarkef-controlled territory." Yoshida's mind raced, weighing the risks against the potential reward. Those survivors could have crucial intelligence about the enemy. "Prepare a drop team," she ordered. "I want our best down there, fully equipped for hostile territory extraction." As the orders were relayed, Yoshida turned her attention back to the space battle. The Zarkef were regrouping, bringing their numerically superior force to bear once more. "All ships, execute Maneuver Theta," Yoshida commanded. It was a risky ploy, one that would leave their flanks exposed, but if it worked... The human fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their formation shifting to create the illusion of a weak point in their defenses. The Zarketh, sensing an opportunity, took the bait. "Now," Yoshida shouted. Hidden antimatter mines, deployed earlier in the battle, detonated in a blinding flash. The Zarketh ships that had pushed forward to exploit the perceived weakness found themselves caught in a deadly trap. As the enemy fleet reeled from the unexpected assault, Yoshida pressed the advantage. "All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship. Let's end this." On the planet's surface, Cruz and Foster had taken shelter in the ruins of a research facility. The sounds of battle above filled them with equal parts hope and dread. "If Earth is here," Arya said, her voice barely above a whisper, "then the Zarketh might." Cruz nodded grimly, understanding her unspoken fear. "They might decide to cut their losses and destroy the planet rather than let us reclaim it." A sudden tremor shook the ground, causing dust and debris to rain down on them. Cruz's military instincts screamed danger. "We need to move," he said, helping Arya to her feet. "Now." As they emerged from their hiding place, the sky lit up with an otherworldly glow. A massive Zarketh ship, easily twice the size of anything they'd seen before, was descending through the atmosphere. "Dear God," Arya breathed. "What is that?" Cruz's face set in grim determination. "Nothing good. Come on, we need to find better cover and try to re-establish contact with our forces." As they ran through the ruins of the once thriving colony, dodging patrols of Zarketh ground forces, the massive alien ship settled into a hovering position above what used to be the colony's central plaza. A beam of sickly green energy began to build at the ship's underside, growing in intensity with each passing second. In orbit, Admiral Yoshida watched in horror as her sensors registered the immense power buildup. "All ships, divert all available power to the planetary defense," she shouted. "We cannot let them destroy New Eden." As the human fleet scrambled to intervene, the fate of an entire world, and perhaps the future of humanity itself, hung in the balance. The next few moments would determine whether New Eden would become humanity's graveyard or the birthplace of a new era of resilience and determination. Turning the tide, the air crackled with tension as the massive Zarketh ship loomed over New Eden, its weapon primed to deliver a planet-killing blow. On the surface, Lieutenant Cruz and Dr. Foster watched in horror, their hearts pounding in their chests. "We can't just stand here," Arya said, her voice trembling but resolute. "There has to be something we can do." Cruz's mind raced, years of military training kicking into overdrive. His eyes fell on the alien weapon he'd taken from the fallen Zarketh warrior. An idea began to form, desperate, perhaps suicidal, but their only hope. "The research facility," he said suddenly. "You said it had an experimental power core, right?" Arya's eyes widened as she grasped his plan. "Yes, but overloading it could create an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to disable that ship. But Cruz, we'd never survive the blast." Cruz met her gaze, determination etched on his face. "If we do nothing, no one survives. This is our chance to save New Eden and give Earth a fighting chance." In orbit, Admiral Yoshida barked orders as her fleet maneuvered to intercept the Zarketh dreadnought. "Divert all non-essential power to forward shields. Prepare to fire everything we've got." The UES Defiant shuddered as it pushed its engines beyond their limits, racing against time to place itself between the alien superweapon and the vulnerable planet below. On the bridge, alarms blared as the ship's systems strained under the pressure. "Admiral," Captain Volkov warned, "our shields can't withstand that level of firepower. We'll be torn apart." Yoshida's face was grim but determined. "Better us than an entire world. Hold the line, Captain. Help is coming." As if in answer to her words, a transmission cut through the chaos. "This is Lieutenant Cruz to any Earth forces. We have a plan to disable the enemy ship, but we need time. Can you buy us 5 minutes?" Hope surged through Yoshida's chest. "Lieutenant, this is Admiral Yoshida. Whatever you're planning, make it fast. We'll give you your window." Down on New Eden, Cruz and Aria raced through the ruins of the research facility, dodging falling debris and the occasional Zarkef patrol. They reached the power core chamber, its alien technology still humming with latent energy. "Okay," Aria said, her fingers flying over the control panel. "I can initiate an overload sequence, but we'll only have minutes to clear the blast radius." Cruz nodded, setting charges from his tactical kit around the room. "These should amplify the explosion. Let's hope it's enough." As they worked, the sky above New Eden erupted in a dazzling firefight. Earth's fleet threw everything they had at the Zarkef dreadnought, their smaller ships darting and weaving through enemy fire like angry hornets. Admiral Yoshida watched the battle unfold, her knuckles white as she gripped her command chair. Ships on both sides were falling, torn apart by the furious exchange of energy weapons and missiles. 30 seconds to full weapon charge. An officer called out, fear evident in his voice. Yoshida's eyes narrowed. "All ships, prepare to concentrate fire on these coordinates. We only get one shot at this." On the planet's surface, Cruz and Aria shared one final look as the power core's whine reached a fever pitch. "Ready?" Cruz asked, his hand hovering over the detonator. Aria nodded, a sad smile on her face. "For Earth." "For humanity," Cruz agreed. He pressed the button. The world exploded in a blinding flash of light and energy. The overloaded power core, amplified by Cruz's charges, released a massive electromagnetic pulse that raced outward in all directions. In orbit, the pulse slammed into the Zarkef dreadnought just as it was about to fire. Systems overloaded, circuits fried, and the massive ship's weapons sputtered and died. Admiral Yoshida saw her chance. "All ships, fire everything you've got. Now." The combined firepower of Earth's remaining fleet lanced out, tearing into the suddenly vulnerable Zarkef flagship. Explosions blossomed along its hull as critical systems failed in rapid succession. With a silent roar that seemed to shake the very fabric of space, the dreadnought split apart, its broken halves drifting lifelessly in orbit. A cheer went up across the human fleet, but Yoshida's thoughts were on the planet below. Status of New Eden. Did anyone survive that pulse? For agonizing moments, there was no response. Then, through the static, a familiar voice crackled over the comms. "This is Lieutenant Cruz. Dr. Foster and I are alive. Barely, but we did it, Admiral. We did it." Tears of relief and pride welled in Yoshida's eyes. "Well done, Lieutenant. Well done indeed." As the remaining Zarkef ships began to retreat, fleeing the system in disarray, the full impact of what had transpired began to sink in. Humanity had faced its greatest threat and emerged victorious, bloodied but unbowed. Admiral Yoshida gazed out at the stars, a mix of emotions swirling in her chest. They had won this battle, but she knew the war was far from over. The Zarkef would be back, and Earth would need to be ready. But for now, as rescue shuttles descended to New Eden's surface and the fleet began the process of securing the system, there was time for a moment of hope. Humanity had proven its worth among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.